can a machine have a soul? And like I said in the beginning, the machines today do not have souls. I think that it's
They,
possible to, yeah, today machines do not have souls, do
but it
not.
could have in the future.
It could happen. I'll tell you how. If you can build a neural network out of biological cells, so you will have built a computing substrate, something that can compute like the machines today, but it would be made out of biology, and that would allow for consciousness.
How are you, Rabbi? I'm so honored to meet you, really.
Thank you.
We are with Rabbi Moise Navon. I'm happy your name is like French, Moise.
Correct. It's from Gerush Sfarad. My ancestors are from the Spanish Inquisition, and they went to the Ottoman Empire, and I was actually born in Istanbul,
Oh.
because that's where my parents are from. But I grew up in Los Angeles from the age of 2 months.
Dear Rabbi, you are an ordained rabbi and also the designer of Mobileye's autonomous car chip. You are
Correct.
also an advisor to the Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology, meaning you participate in making the startup nation. So
That's true.
let's start with the questions. Three pillars define you: AI, faith, and ethics. How did you encounter each one?
Basically, I grew up a secular Jew, not religious, but my parents were traditional. We made Kiddush on Friday night. We had, basic upbringing of Judaism, but not really religion. I mean, my parents believed in God, but that was about it. We didn't do anything more than that. But I always asked myself, why are we here? Why are we here? What is the purpose of our being here? And no one could ever tell me. And it was when I was in college studying computer engineering, I started working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory with a guy who was a religious Jew. And so he taught me engineering and he taught me Judaism. And he said, there's a purpose. We are here to fix ourselves. We are here to fix the world. Tikkun ha-neshama, tikkun ha-olam. And so I said, wow, somebody believes that there's a reason we're here. And so I listened to him, and slowly, slowly, I began more and more to learn about Judaism. I bought all kinds of books. And really, there's these two parts of philosophy. There's the existentialist question, why are we here? And then there's the ethical question. So what are we supposed to do with ourselves now that we're here? Great. So there's a God and he wants us to fix ourselves. What does that mean? How do we define right and wrong, good and evil? And so that's really what drew me in also. I mean, Judaism is very much a book of ethics. It's a book of how we're supposed to live. We are a light onto the nations because we have this book that teaches us how to put together a moral nation. It's a struggle. It's not easy. Everybody tries to do the best they can, but that's the goal. And so I signed up to this whole program, and the more I learned, the more I became involved, and the more I wanted to do until, I became a rabbi. And then that wasn't enough, and so I went and got my PhD in Jewish philosophy. And I did all of this in parallel, right? I was designing chips at Mobileye, and at night I would go to the yeshiva and study for the Rabbanut.
How does the rational and spiritual coexist within the same person?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me that, and it's sort of funny because, unfortunately, people think that science somehow proves that there's not a God, and you can't be, a scientist, an engineer, somebody who understands physics and still believe in the spirit and in the soul and in the world to come. And that's completely not true. Because the more we learn about science, the more you can be amazed at the world itself and at the miracles of creation and the miracle of how things work and the miracle of from the tiny atom to the galaxies. Everything is screaming design. This thing has been designed. It didn't just pop here. Darwin came up with a theory that we just came to be. but it doesn't hold water. He didn't know anything compared to what we know today about DNA, about the complexity of the human being. We didn't just emerge from a warm pond with a little bit of lightning. It takes much more than that. What's going on inside the human body is incredible. I see the more I learn about the world, the more I learn about science. Also, in my dissertation that I wrote about AI and ethics, I also got into the idea of consciousness. Okay, and everybody's talking about, oh, AI is conscious today, right? No, people are being fooled by it, but consciousness is basically the secular word for the soul. Before the 17th century and the Enlightenment period, when people started learning more about science, everybody called what we call today the mind and consciousness, they called it the soul. The Greek word for psychology and psyche and psychiatrist, all those words basically are connected to the root soul. Psyche is soul in Greek. And everybody talked about this thing. We all know we have something that's not physical, that we feel, that we experience the world, right? And so we call that the soul. We, as religious people, understand that God gave a soul. Just like it says in the book of Bereshit, that God created the body and He blew in the soul the breath of life. To make a long story short, I believe that science and philosophy and all of the modern thought is coming more to support religious belief than to debunk it.
Have there been times where your religious conviction have clashed with the dynamics of the business world?
It's a good question because, in business, right, there's all kinds of difficult scenarios and people don't always tell the truth, or they have all kinds of ways of manipulating, which manipulation is a classic example of something that's not moral and all these kinds of things. I have never had to be in that position because I'm an engineer. And engineers work more with machines and logic and design and less with people and negotiations. The truth is that I can't think of a time when I've had to deal with that.
But you never had a clash between your convictions and like the AI maybe?
First of all, AI is I mean, we've been designing computers and constantly improving until now. Today they're called artificial intelligence, which is based on neural networks, and it's a whole new ball game. I mean, the systems that I developed, some of them are artificial intelligence, some of them are just basically hard-coded designs. Today, there are a lot of ethical issues, and that's what I lecture about to engineers, okay? When I was developing systems, it was far less so because the systems weren't in every corner of our lives, right? What's possible today wasn't on the table 10 years ago. 20 years ago, right? And so, of course, you need to think about ethics always, but today it's become very critical. Social media can do manipulations. There's the issue of privacy, tracking people. There's all kinds of issues that come up. I'm trying to think also, look, autonomous weapons, is it okay for a machine to decide to kill somebody or not? All of these things I teach about, and many of them I've published in academic journals. So I've thought about them, but they weren't in my specific realm, of work.
What is the biggest risk you see today in the responsible use of artificial intelligence? Autonomous weapon, disinformation, or something else we are not seeing?
Those things that you mentioned are definitely critical and important. But I think that the biggest problem, the biggest threat that is across the board, around the world, is that people are developing relationships with the machine. They are beginning to lose the ability or the desire to have relationships with people. People are messy. People are difficult. People push back. People don't like you. People give you trouble. The machine doesn't do any of that. It tells you how great you are. Even if you said something wrong, they say, no, but look, do it like this and you're just great. The number one problem is that people are getting sucked in to having relationships with a machine. It's a machine. And people are getting sucked into thinking that it's alive, that it has consciousness, right? It's not conscious. It cannot have consciousness. It's a machine. And on top of that is the even worse problem. I don't know if it's worse, but it's on the same level. And that is that people are giving over all of their cognitive tasks, the things that make you think, you're letting the machine think for you. Before the machine, I used to send my articles to an editor who she would go through it and she would say, this doesn't make sense, add something here, etc. So now I do that with ChatGPT or Claude. I give it my whole paper and I say, critique it. And it says, you need to expand here, this isn't proven well, etc., etc. It tells me what to do. Now, I could take it to the next step and say, fix it. You do it. And it will do it. But then that's the end of me. You need to use the machine as an assistant and not as a replacement. MIT and other universities have come out with studies that are showing that people are losing their cognitive capacity. There is a drop in people's mental ability.
Now, do you see the hand of God in AI?
That's a good question. I see the hand of God in everything. God has created this world, okay? And he allows for us to exist in this world. However, he made the world out of chaos, tohu vavohu, right? And then he finished on the last day, on the seventh day, and it says, and he finished everything that he did to do. And all the commentators would say, what is that? Why is that? It should have just said he finished his work. What is to do? So the Midrashim explain that it means that he left work to do for the human beings. This world is a mess, and God left it a mess on purpose. He left it for us to fix. Okay, that's what I said before. We need to fix ourselves. None of us are perfect, and we need to fix the world. The world is not perfect. Okay, and so that's up to us. Now, I believe that technology is a way to help fix the world. And so I think that God's hand is in AI in the sense that it allows us, God is happy with us to develop technology to help the world. Technology has been making the human condition better ever since Noah invented the plow, right? Before Noah invented the plow, people were digging with their hands and spending their days just making food so they could survive. When the plow came along, it freed up people. They could do something else. Only a few people did the agriculture and everybody else did other things. And that's how civilization flourished. Our lives are insanely improved.
What is it that a human being can do and the AI is unable to?
Basically, AI can do everything that we can do. Human beings used to be special because we could speak, because we could create. But the machines can speak and create. They're very creative. They make creative art, creative articles, creative everything, music. So what are we special about? At the end of the day, what's special about us is that there's only one thing the machine cannot create ever, and that's you and me. Every single person has still within them the capacity and the obligation to create themselves. We all need to continue to try to create ourselves, and again, and not to give the machines to create us. The machines can help us. I always give the example of Marc Chagall. So today, the machine can make a beautiful Marc Chagall, right? You can give it the topic and you can give it the style, and it'll give you whatever you want, you know. So what would Marc Chagall do? Well, Marc Chagall, I think, would still need to be the painter that he is. Marc Chagall was Marc Chagall because he painted, because he expressed himself through the ideas, the symbols, the colors, right, that he was able to use. And so he would still need to do that. It doesn't matter that the machine can paint like him. Every individual still needs to express themselves and create themselves.
What will AI never give humanity what religion can give?
people are asking this question and they're saying, oh, is AI God, or can people worship AI? And really the answer is a question. What do you get out of faith? What do you get out of God? What do you expect? So I think AI is incredible in terms of its vast capacity to process information. It can access all the information in the world. It has this whole library, and it can tell you in a second what this rabbi said over there, and he can put it together and say, oh, he would disagree with him, whatever. That's not faith. That's not God. Okay? What God gives you is purpose. What God gives you is the definition of right and wrong. God gives you the life to be able, and the freedom, the autonomy to be able to do anything you want in the world to make yourself better, or you can, God forbid, make yourself worse. But God put us in this world with free will to do right or to do wrong. And so all of that AI cannot replace in any way, shape, or form. AI is a giant information processor. It might replace a rabbi. That could be. Instead of going to ask a rabbi, can I eat milk now that I ate a steak, or whatever, right? Or what blessing do I make on this wine? What, all these questions, or, right, how much money should I give to charity, and etc. You can ask the machine that. And the question that's being debated today is, should we be asking the machine that question? Should we be asking a human being? Is there something about what's called the human touch, or can machines even replace that? And I think that, time will tell. Look, people have been using Google already for decades to get information about halacha and Jewish law, etc. Now with the capacities of AI chatbots, that the game has been upped. And so, in answer to the question, in my view, it is possible that AI chatbots will replace rabbis. It will never, ever replace faith and God.
I don't know if it would replace a rabbi, because we just said that the AI wants to please you, and the rabbi would not want to please you. He would want
Right.
to tell you what is right,
Yeah.
You are a storyteller for Mobileye. What does that mean?
I was one of the founding engineers of Mobileye. That means to say that, like, there were like 4 hardware engineers that we sat in the attic of this building, of this house that we were renting, and Amnon Shashua and a couple other people came up with the algorithms, a couple guys writing software, and we took all of these ideas, the algorithms, the software, the hardware, and we made it into a little chip. But what happened was that after the Intel buyout, mobile became very famous, and I was able to basically take my stocks and then go and do what I always wanted to do, and I went and got my PhD and started teaching. So, but in the meantime, there's all these people that are coming to Israel that want to know about the startup nation, and they want to come to Mobileye because that's like, we were at least the largest
Like an
exit in
icon.
Israeli history. Yeah. So everybody wants to come to Mobileye. And so people started contacting me, and I started telling them the story. And so basically now I've been telling this story of Mobileye all over the world since the exit in 2017. But I don't just tell the Mobileye story. I mean, it's interesting how this company went from a little house into, the largest exit in Israeli history. But I tell them more about the startup nation. And then I tell them about the Jewish people. And that really, it's all the same story. And I tell them about my story, that, how I became religious and how I came to Israel, and how it was a struggle. It wasn't easy to move from LA to Israel in 1992. I came with 2 little kids and my wife, and we had, a very small salary, and we were struggling, and we didn't have any family. We don't speak the language. Lots of ups and downs. And the same thing is true with Mobileye. Mobileye was this close to going bankrupt like 10 times. And the startup nation has gone up and down like this. And so it's really a story about the Jewish people, about the ups and downs, and constantly just keep pushing and believing in yourself and believe in the Jewish people and believe that there's a purpose and we are going to fulfill it.
How did you imagine this technology, the chip, the Mobileye?
The way technology works is that somebody has like an idea. So for example, Amnon Shashua, who is the professor of computer science at Hebrew University, so he had an idea. He said, we can detect 3D objects in the world with a single camera. So nobody ever thought that could be done because you need two eyes to be able to detect depth. So if you only have one eye, you can't see depth. But if you close one eye, the fact is that you can see depth. And you really only need two eyes for like closer than your arm. Amnon Shashua proved it. And then he said, let's apply it to cars. The only thing is that the proof of concept worked very slowly. It worked on a computer like your laptop. It showed that the idea could be done, but it wasn't fast enough to work in the real world. If you put his system in a car, by the time the car said, put on your brakes, you would have run over 10 people. It's not fast enough. So that's when he hired the four engineers that I sat with, and we worked together, and we took his algorithm and we put it in this chip that works at the speed of your eye. And so that's when it became something that you can now put on the ground and on the road to work.
From your experience, what ethical principles do you consider is essential for any company that develops or implements artificial intelligence?
So that's a hard question. I mean, look, artificial intelligence does so many different things, and any company that's developing artificial intelligence, I mean, you may be referring to the chatbots like the LLMs, the large language models like OpenAI's chatbot and Anthropic's Claude, but all of these things can be used for so many applications. And so it's hard to say, one ethical principle. If I had to say, what's the one rule of the Torah, don't do unto others what you don't want them to do to you. The rest is commentary.
What conflicts have you had to resolve?
I mean, if we go back to the autonomous weapons, okay, so a lot of the world of the philosophical world, the ethical people that are writing about it, what they don't like about it is that they think it violates human dignity. It's not dignified to be killed by a machine. And so they say you can't use them because a human being, isn't deciding to take the life of another human being. Love your neighbor as yourself in the battlefield, but there's no place for that in the battlefield. According to Judaism, okay, there are rules that apply to the everyday, and there's rules that apply to the battle day. Okay, they're different rules. It's a different world. And you know, if you apply love your neighbor to yourself on the battlefield, you will be dead very fast. Okay? Nobody wants to go to war. War is a terrible thing. Innocent people get killed along with evil people get killed. It's a mess. My response to that is that human life takes precedence over human dignity, meaning we need to save our soldiers' lives. And so we need to do whatever we have to do. There's also another huge conflict that came up in the news a couple of months ago between the Anthropic that makes the Claude LLM and the United States War Department and Pete Hegseth, who's the defense minister of the United States. And he wants to use the AI to track people, mass surveillance. I want to know where everybody is all the time. Now, why does he want that? For security. He wants to know if there's terrorists going places, and so if you can track everybody, you know where the normal people are going, and then the data shows there's these people are doing something that not everybody's doing. So that's another conflict between privacy I'm going to have to violate people's privacy to track them, and security. I need to protect the country. So this is a huge conflict. In Israel, we've solved that problem. Security takes precedence over personal privacy. But in the United States, they're still arguing about it.
Now, the Talmud speaks of the golem, an artificial creature created by a rabbi. Is artificial intelligence the golem of the 21st century?
There's no doubt. Yes. Yeah. I mean, basically, we use the golem as an example in many different ways. Today, you can use the golem in terms of that man has created something that he can't control. And it applies to all kinds of technologies. But now with AI, it really has a parallel in the sense that it's this human-like figure that goes around and it has power, but we don't exactly have complete control over it, and we need to have control over it, and it's going to help us, but it's not. So a lot of people use the golem to try to talk about the issues surrounding AI.
Will it go against us at one point?
So that's right. So okay. So the big fear, or one of the big fears that they talk about is that I don't know if you know the movie 2001: Space Odyssey. So it's a very old movie that talks about the future and about technology. And in the movie, there's a computer called HAL, HAL, and this computer basically runs everything. And at some point, the people decide that they're going to turn him off, and he realizes it, and he takes over everything and doesn't allow them to turn him off. And so this is sort of the big fear that the machines are going to take over. Of course, it's a possibility, right? I don't see it so much as a significant or serious threat. It's certainly not today. Like I said, when you ask me what are the biggest problems, no doubt it's the problem of people having social interactions and giving over their whole mental tasks to the machine.
What does halacha says about emotional bonding with a machine?
Basically, the halacha says that you have no business doing that. God created you with an ezer kenegdo. An ezer kenegdo is translated as a helpmate. It's somebody who helps you. But what does it mean they help you? A husband and a wife help each other to achieve what we are here for, to fix ourselves. If I have no difficulties and I just have this sweet relationship with ChatGPT, I'm not going to grow up. And so I have wasted my life. The whole point of a relationship is that you learn that you need to compromise, that you need to see the world from another person's perspective. That's a quote from Sherry Turkell. Sherry Turkell wrote a book called Alone Together. She's a sociologist, a professor at MIT. And this book, she talks about that alone together, we all sit together, but we're all alone because we're all on our phones. She has two sections. The second section is about relationships with chatbots, robots. The whole point of a relationship, again, is to see the world from another person's perspective. I see the world from my perspective, but that's not the world, right? And so I would definitely say that halacha would not be happy with people having relationships with machines. The more important question is if the machine had a soul. Because if it did have a soul, so then you could consider maybe it has, it could accept Jewish obligations upon itself, like a convert kind of a thing, right? But this is really the heart of my dissertation is about, can a machine have a soul? And like I said in the beginning, the machines today do not have souls. I think that it's possible to, today machines do not have souls.
But it could have in the future?
It could happen. I'll tell you how. If you can build a neural network out of biological cells, so you will have built a computing substrate, something that can compute like the machines today, but it would be made out of biology, and that would allow for consciousness. Today, there's what are called artificial neural networks. There are these little switches that work like the little switches in our heads, okay? But if you look out at the world, the only things that are conscious, the only things that have a soul, are made of biological material, animals and humans. Nothing else in the world has a soul. So if you want to build something that has a soul, you're going to need to build it out of biology. But people are working on that today in Stanford, in Harvard, in Columbia, and there's something like 69 labs around the world working on building conscious AI. There's a thing, look up this idea, it's called organoids. And so they're taking stem cells, okay, basic cells, and growing them into brain cells, brain tissue, and connecting them up and doing all kinds of things. If you connect up enough of them, you're going to make a brain.
Wow, and then it will have a soul.
I believe so.
Now, you are an advisor to the Pope, to the
In a
Vatican.
way, I
To the
wouldn't say to the
Vatican.
Pope. I will say, to be clear, okay, I was invited to a group that was put together in the Vatican where we were different people from different religions and to discuss the issues of AI. And so now this group, that was like the initial meeting, and now hopefully in a few months it will start to be, more significant. But we did have initial 2-day conference to try to get people's ideas together. And actually I gave a talk there about that God wants us to develop technology, like I explained to you. I can't say that we're advising the Pope, but we are under the Vatican trying to come up with approaches to AI ethics.
And you are also an advisor to the Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology, as we said. Is
Yeah,
Israel regulating AI adequately, or is it lagging behind? Because I know China and the US are leading.
you're talking about the AI development, and no doubt America and China are the leaders, but Israel is not far behind. I mean, we're in the top 10 developers of AI in the world.
What role can Israel and Jewish thought play in defining global ethical standards for this technology?
There's many, many ideas in Jewish thought which can be universalized, which can be taught to the world in a general way. Telling the story of Adam and Eve, okay, is using a Jewish idea to make you understand that there's a value to human relationships. So you don't have to be Jewish, you don't have to believe in God. It's a story, right? Plato tells stories. Nobody says, oh, you have to become a Greek, right? We learn from the story. If it tells us something interesting, important, then we can apply it. So that's what I try to do. I try to take Jewish ideas and make them accessible to people of all faith or no faith.
Now, you will be speaking at Digital America Mexico to Latin American business and technology leaders. What are you going to talk about?
So that's a good question because they still haven't told me what I'm supposed to talk about. Honestly, I'm debating, I could talk about the question that you asked, like if the machines can do everything, so what is our worth? So that's a very important question that I've spoken at big conferences and people have really liked it. I can also talk about, how Anthropic is developing their LLMs, that they use what's called a constitution. The constitution is like a book of rules, but it's more than just a book of rules. It's a book of guidance. It's almost like a Torah for the machine. They believe that it's going to help the machine make better decisions. And so that's what I was invited to speak or be in a part of an ethics group at Anthropic for 2 days last month.
Does Anthropic want this?
Yes, yes. So that's the interesting thing is that they initiated this. Anthropic is actually unique among the AI companies that they are actively trying to make sure that their machine is ethical. So they invited like what they call people from wisdom traditions, traditions that have been around the world thinking about these kinds of ideas. So I was invited to give the Jewish perspective.
What lesson from the Israeli ecosystem, that combination of chutzpah and values, is most relevant for Latin America today?
I think that chutzpah is very important because what chutzpah means, okay, it means taking risks, okay? It means putting forth ideas that maybe people won't accept, maybe they'll think it's strange or funny or what's not going to work. The fact of the matter is that that's exactly how Mobileye was founded. Nobody thought that you can detect 3D objects with a single camera. It takes chutzpah to say, all the scientists in the world don't think it can be done, but we'll do it. Okay, now that doesn't mean that every chutzpahny idea is going to work. All right, a lot, right? For one Mobileye, there's thousands of companies that fall. But that's the idea of chutzpah in the business world, is to push forward things that people didn't think could be done. Like we've been talking this whole time, is to do things for the good, for the better of humanity. I mean, you should be trying to develop systems that are going to help the world and not hurt the world. And your systems need to be guided by these basic principles. Love your neighbor as yourself. Don't do unto others as you don't do unto others as you don't want them to do to you. We want to develop technology for the good of humanity. Like I said, I think that it's helping the world to become a better place.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
My pleasure.
It is an amazing interview. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.